Good morning. I am Kate Feinberg-Robbins here at Find Your Center, and we are working on finding ways to adapt ballet to your body so that you look and feel amazing as you dance, as you move through life. So the exercise we're doing today is finding flow in your movement. We're going to practice 3 different poses and find ways to flow among them. I got out a chair here, so I'm going to do 2 poses that are sitting and 1 that is standing. You can adapt these so they work for you, so you're welcome to sit on a chair. You can sit all the way down on the floor, or you can do all of your poses standing. So first we'll just do 1 pose at a time. The simplest one is simply standing with our feet together, our chest forward, and we're going to lift our elbows just a little bit to have a nice lengthened but rounded low position here. So find this position or a similar position that feels good to you. Just take a few breaths here. I'll give you some cues to think about. If it feels overwhelming, just take the cues that work for you and let go the ones that feel like too much or that you don't quite understand. So as you stand here, just listen to my voice as you follow along. We're going to breathe softly, pulling the shoulders back, relaxing the neck. We'll lengthen the back of the neck, pull your belly button up toward your ribs. Press down into the floor through your feet. And think of a string attached to the top of the middle of your head, pulling up toward the ceiling. Take a few breaths here. We can open the arms a little bit and close them, find a little bit of movement. We can sway the body a little bit. Find a little movement just in this pose so that it's not a frozen pose, but a flowing pose. And when we find stillness, it's stillness within that flow. So this is your pose number 1. Finding a version of this pose that works for you, either standing, sitting, kneeling, any version of this pose that feels good for you. Number 2, I'm going to sit down. You can follow my lead and sit on a chair. You can sit all the way on the floor, or you can remain standing. We're going to keep that diagonal view going, so I'm facing the corner a little bit away from the camera. My knees are together, especially because I'm wearing a dress, so you probably want to keep your knees together if you're wearing a dress or a skirt. And I'm going to lift my toes up, bring my arms up, so I'm in the same rounded position, but now over my head. And look at my audience, tilting back, framing my face. Now here it's easy to kind of lift your shoulders, so make sure that you bring those shoulders down, relax. So take a few breaths here. Adjust the pose so that it works for you. You can open the arms a little bit if that helps you relax your shoulders. You can bring your arms back down if holding them up is not working for you. I'll give you some cues with this position, just like we did before. So we're going to look straight into the camera or into your eyes if you're looking in a mirror, or straight at your audience if you have an audience. Again, we'll lengthen the back of the neck. We'll pull the shoulder blades down our back, lengthen through our fingertips, keeping our elbows slightly bent. Breathe into it. And again, we'll find a little bit of movement here, swaying our arms. We can move our head a little bit. moving with our breath. And then find stillness within that movement. And take a few more breaths in an energetic pose that feels good to you. And we'll come out of it. We're going to go back to that first pose just to remind ourselves again. So wherever you were in your first pose, find that position again. And take a few breaths. And now we're going to find our third pose. So I'll do this one also sitting down. My legs will be in the same position. This time I'll bring my arms forward, bring my chest forward a little bit, and I'm going to open that arm that is reaching toward my audience. I'll open that to the side and reach out over this front arm. Look out over that front arm. Pull my chest forward. So take a moment to just kind of find this position on your own or something close to this position. Again, it can be standing. You can sit on a chair. You can bring your heels down, bring them up. Find a version of this that works for you. And if you're ready for more cues, listen up. If it's too much, just let it go. So we can think about wiggling our fingertips a little bit, lengthening through our fingertips, relaxing them. So nothing stiff, everything is kind of floating. We have a floating feeling with our arms. We're pulling our shoulders back, lengthening through the tips of our fingers. Our thumb and middle finger on both hands are reaching toward each other. So we're not reaching away, we're reaching, keeping our thumb and middle fingers reaching in toward each other. We're still pulling our belly button up toward our ribs, lifting our chest, pulling our shoulder blades down our back, lengthening the back of our neck, breathing softly. We're lifting under our upper arm muscles, so not lifting our shoulders, not lifting our elbows or our hands, but we're lifting our upper arm muscles while pulling our shoulder blades down our back. Let's come out of it for a little bit. I find that one the hardest to hold, so we'll shake it out a little bit. Then we'll come back into whatever your version of that position was. And again, we'll find a little bit of a movement, flowing back and forth, or maybe staying there but kind of breathing a little bit with our arms, our chest. Maybe reaching our head, tilting our head back and forth. And again, finding stillness, finding an energetic stillness within that movement. And release. We'll come back to pose number one to remind your body where it is. And then we'll come back to pose number two. And we'll come into pose number three. And again, back to pose number one. All right, so we are going to practice now that you've gotten those three poses. We're going to go move among those poses and find flow between the poses, among the three poses. Find a way to flow among them that works for you. So I'll do it in a way that works for me. And you're welcome to look at the video to follow along, but adapt it also. Make sure you're not looking at the video the whole time, but you're also finding a way to go among the poses that works for you. So remember, let's review the numbers again, and I'll say the numbers, and then you'll know which pose to do. So number 1 is with our arms down. Number 2 is with our arms up, maybe sitting in our chair. And number 3 is with one arm forward and the other reaching out to the audience. Also, perhaps sitting in her chair. All right, ready to go? Okay, here we go. We're going to start this time with pose number 2. Moving into pose 3. Pose 2 again. And pose 3. We'll stay there for a couple breaths. And pose 1. And pose 3. Pose 1. And 3. And 2. And 3. Remember to breathe, come back into 2. All the way back into 1. We'll pause here, take a few breaths. As we move through our poses again, I want you to think about giving each pose one breath. So we'll move from one pose to the next on our exhale, and we will pause on our inhale. So we'll inhale, pausing in pose 1. Exhale, moving to pose 2. Inhale in pose 2. Exhale, transition to 3. Inhale in 3. Transition to 1. Inhale in 1. Transition back to 3. Let's go between 1 and 3. Exhale and inhale. Exhale and inhale. Continuing with your breath. Pose 1 and pose 3. Then let's go between 3 and 2. Exhale and inhale. Exhale and inhale. Moving with your breath. Two and 1, going from pose 2. On the next exhale, we'll move to pose 1. And again, moving with our breath between pose 2 and pose 1. You can adapt your poses as you go. If the standing and sitting is becoming a little bit too much for you, you can switch to just standing, just moving your upper body. Let's go ahead and put all 3 together. So we'll do pose 1. Exhale, moving to pose 2. Exhale, moving to pose 3. Back to 1. And 2. And 3. Continuing. We'll pause next time you get to pose 1. Center ourselves, take a few breaths here. And then we'll reverse the order. So from here we'll go into 3, and then 2, and then 1 with that same pattern of movement. Let's breathe a little bit in this pose, remind ourselves of that movement. And then coming into pose 1. Exhale, moving to 3. Inhale on 3. Exhale, moving to 2. Back to pose 1. And 3. And 2. And 1. And 3. 2. And 1. Continuing with your breath. Keep going while I talk. To finish today, I want you to find a moment of stillness. So keep moving until it feels like the right moment to pause. And then we'll hold. Breathe in our final pose. And from wherever you are, we're going to do a little bow, a little reverence, so thank you. So we'll look toward the camera, reach our arms a little bit forward, bow our head down, and then look back up. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for dancing with me today. I will see you next time.